So, guess who's the speaker?
Yay, Lady Susan.
Yes. Our speaker this morning is Susan Cullen, and she is the founding member of our community. And if there is anyone who could speak about love,
No, no.
cry. Unfortunately, I can cry and talk at the same time.
Yay.
It's Susan. And there are many aspects to love, and she has had a great love for this community guiding us forward. But she also has a life outside of Unity, strange as that sounds. And that life too is about love. Love for her family, love for her friends, and love for supporting people to be all they can be. Susan is a certified life coach with an ACC designation from the International Coach Federation. And she coaches people who feel a calling to transform the world, to help them discover with clarity and capacity the courage to be all that they are. And part of that journey of courage is to learn to be compassionate to ourselves along the way. And if anyone has shown me that, it is Susan. As I've struggled on my path, she has brought this idea of self-compassion to me time and time again. And this morning, it is our great privilege to hear some of the ideas she has about how to navigate through life using compassion and love. Please welcome the lovely Miss Susan Cullen.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we need to turn this, is that part on? Okay. Can you turn this part on?
She's
Okay.
on.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we're on now. Oh, well, hearty souls who are here today, which is a very good thing, because what that tells me is that you've been called to be here. Called by your own higher self, your own soul. And I'm so delighted that you're here. So, who was here last week with Reverend Doug Craig? Yeah, okay, a lot of you. So what he talked about last week was about this idea of a model of a pendulum of our lives where it's tick-tock, tick-tock, we go between the positive and the negative. And he talked about being in that talk position, which is of course the negative side, and what not to do when you're there, right? What I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to build on that model and look a little bit more deeply on that talk side, that negative side, and look at how we can heal that so we don't go as much back and forth into that negative side. So my model is the onion model. Because every time you take off a layer of onions, you cry a whole lot, right? Yes, I've had many experiences of peeling away the layers and crying with each layer as I do. So when I first was scheduled to do this talk, I didn't really know what I was going to talk about. And I just had this sort of intuitive sense that it would come to me that I would know. And if you were here last week with Reverend Doug, you will know that I spoke about feeling very raw last week still, of having this really deep healing experience. Just in time for the talk. How convenient is that? How convenient is that? So how it all began. So let's see, where to begin? Okay. So when we are born, as Reverend Doug said, we are born whole, perfect, and complete. And we are also born relationally dependent. What that means is the baby cannot survive, we cannot survive without other people taking care of us. So as we move through this period, this early period in our lives, there's all kinds of things that happen where we make a decision that it is not safe. And that depends on our families and our growing up. And so what we do when that happens, so for instance, if a need of ours is met with anger, may have absolutely nothing to do with us, right, our parent. But if that need is met with anger, then we can decide as the baby, that part of me is not safe to express. And so what we do is we split off our consciousness. Our consciousness is like flowing water, and we can split off pieces. So this is what happens in our early years, that we take our consciousness, our perfect whole and complete consciousness, and we split it off into these other parts. And these split off parts is what becomes what is commonly known as the shadow, right? It's those parts of us that we can't accept. And sometimes, depending on the part and the circumstance, there can be another part that gets created, which is called the protector. And the protector is a part of us that keeps us from experiencing whatever the wound is underneath. Because it was too painful for the child to accept and understand and experience. And so it gets split off and then protected by this protector. So what this leads to is two things. One is deep unconscious wounds and beliefs about ourselves. And to say unconscious because we don't realize that they're there. And also it creates that critical self, that critical voice that Reverend Doug was talking about, right? There's two different levels. And I have to say, one of the questions I've had forever, I should say, so this is the book, a new book by Teal Swan called The Anatomy of Loneliness, which of course I bought and started to read for a client. Of course I did. Turns out it was for me, but I thought it was for a client. So, and this is her model. And I have to say, I have been in this healing game for a very, very long time. I've been to countless healers and shamans and counselors and therapists, and each one has contributed their piece to my path along the way, this healing journey. And the one question I've had my whole life, ever since I can remember, is, what is the point of this? Why are we here? What is the point? Right? What is the point of being here? I don't get it, right? And so this has been sort of underlying my quest my whole life. And so, I don't know. I don't know the answer. But my answer is, it is to understand and return ourselves to love. And I'm not talking about that fluffy, oh, wouldn't it be lovely to just go, love, yes, love, we forgive everybody, we forgive everything, and then we are returned to love. Wouldn't that be nice? No, it's not the way it works. It's not the way it works, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So, all right. So how do we begin to discover, if this is all about unconscious beliefs, how do we begin to discover what those beliefs are so that we can bring them up to be healed, to look at them? Well, our outer life is a reflection of our inner life, which means that in order to make change in our life, we have to change what's on the inside. And this is a huge gift, because if you want to know what's going on in your life, what your beliefs are, just look at your life and notice what is showing up and who is showing up and how you are showing up. So this is all about self-awareness. So let me tell you about what happened for me last week. Well, it was actually the Friday before last Sunday is when this healing took place, and it's taken me this whole 10 days to really sort of integrate it and ground it for myself. So I was reading the book, Getting an Oil Change, and I was sitting at the dealership waiting for my car to come back, and she was talking about her model and these split off parts, and as you can see, I'm only in like chapter 2 at this point. And she was talking about the fact that this protector part of ourselves is the part that has a good intention, and the good intention is for us not to experience a hurtful, wounded place, right? So I got home, and this was kind of in my consciousness, and I was asking, well, I could feel that there was something familiar about this for me, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. And in thinking about it, realized that there was a pattern in my life that was just beginning to start again. And the pattern was that I start a lot of things. I'm in the beginner phase, I go and I get trained, and I have lots of information. I start along this path, and I get to this point where I'm just on the verge of making it a success and making it good and making it worthwhile. And suddenly, I can't do it anymore. It's like this veil of energy descends, and all the joy was taken out of whatever it was. So, I'm thinking about this, and then I reflected on the fact that, so last year, I started running these women's circles because I felt so called to run these women's circles, women's coaching circles. And it was going so well, and I even said to some people, oh my God, I think I have found my genius. Like, I think this is what I'm here to do. Like, I can see it, I can feel it. And then as the months progressed and I'm starting to plan more women's circles, I started to feel this, I don't even know what to call it, this blackness kind of just descend down, and I could feel the joy being sucked out. And I'm thinking, oh, no. And I recognize that this is a pattern, that this has happened before. And I thought, no, I am not willing to let this go. I am not willing to let this go. What is this about? I'm ready to know. I want to know what this is about. And the moment I had that thought, I had this experience, and I can only try to put it into words. It was one of those
spiritual experience.
Yeah, a spiritual experience that doesn't really work in the realm of the physical. So, with that caveat, I wasn't meditating, but it's like this vision opened up in front of me, and I saw myself at 2 years old, and I was crying and devastated. And I was crying and devastated because I had decided that I wasn't valuable, because I had no other way to explain to myself why my father would abuse me the way he did. That this person who I relied on for my survival was actually hurting me deeply. And so the only rationalization that I could come up with was that it must be because I'm not valuable. So, in seeing that 2-year-old part of me, I had to go and feel how painful that was. And I cried a lot, and I felt it, and it was incredibly painful. And then of course I phoned my friend and said, I don't know what's going on. You gotta tell me, you gotta help me, what's going on? And lovingly, Katie of course gave me some ideas to sit with and to consider. And then what happened spontaneously is the 2-year-old, as I was willing to go and feel this pain, the 2-year-old came running to me, and I embraced her. And as I did, she kind of dissolved into me, and I had this integration that happened. Now, normally, this kind of thing would be done with a counselor or therapist or whatever. As I said, I've been on this journey for a very long time, and so I guess I was ready and able to experience this on my own. However, I think, in thinking about it, that there was another part of it as well. And that is about navigating towards love. And the one thing that I've been doing very consciously and very differently for the last probably about, well, it started probably 15 years ago, but really intentionally in the last probably 3 or 4 years. And that was practicing self-compassion. And if you're thinking also that self-compassion is some, handy-mandy, oh, wouldn't it be nice kind of thing, the researcher who's done a ton of scientific research on it is Kristen Neff. She's got lots of resources, and her book is fantastic as well. And practicing self-compassion is one of the most powerful ways to navigate towards love, to put that love towards ourselves. Because that is, in fact, the only way that we can heal, and the only way we are then going to be able to heal our world. Because as we have all this split and separation within inside ourselves, it is mirrored out in the world. And that's what we are seeing out in the world, the separation. So as we see ourselves, so if we want to have this transformed world of love and kindness, guess where that begins? Yeah, it begins with us, within ourselves. So how do we do this? Well, I want you to have an experience of this. Don't worry about writing this down. I'm going to put this on the Facebook community page. So if you want to go and look at it later, that's where you'll find it. So the first step, this is just one of her exercises, by the way. She's got lots of different exercises, so this may or may not be something that resonates with you. The first step is to connect with your suffering. And that is looking at what is it that you are feeling. The other thing that she didn't say that I will add is look for the patterns in your life, right? What are the patterns? What are the things that keep showing up? Different cast of characters, different situation, but same plot. right? That's going to be an indication to you that there is something underneath that for you. Oh, and on my protector piece, I don't think I said this. So this protector piece, which has been, in a sense, self-sabotaging me forever, had a positive intention. And the positive intention was to keep me from feeling that pain. The pain of that decision of the 2-year-old, right? And so I needed self-compassion, not only for the 2-year-old, but for that protector piece that had self-sabotaged me, because I think the truth is, it happened now because I am strong enough now to be able to feel the pain, right? I wasn't strong enough before, or it would have happened before. So self-compassion again for the timeline, you know? I can say, it took me, so many years and I wasted all these opportunities and yada, yada, yada. Or I can just go, wow, I guess I'm now ready to really feel this. Right? So I invite you to, if there's something that's relevant in your consciousness right now for you around anger, frustration, sadness, perhaps there's that critical voice that you can connect to, what it says to you. The second phase is to feel it in your body. So what is the physical sensation of that for you? Is it a racing heart? Is it shallow breathing? Is it tightness in your throat? Is it constriction in some other part of your body? The third part is to put your hand to your heart and to set your intention to offer yourself self-kindness, understanding, and compassion. So I invite you to do that right now in this moment. Put your hand on your heart. And set your intention for your own compassion towards yourself. And the fourth step, which you can repeat silently to yourself, is to repeat over and over, may I be safe, may I be peaceful, may I be kind to myself, may I accept myself as I am. May I be safe, may I be peaceful, may I be kind to myself, may I accept myself as I am. And then finally, see if you can feel your heart opening as you do this repetition. Of course, you're going to do it in your own way, in your own setting. But see if you can feel that love flowing and that appreciation of all of who you are. Knowing that you are an onion with lots of layers. In fact, T.L. Swan says that a person with a perfect family, which pretty much doesn't exist, would probably have about 22 split off parts. 22. For those of us who grew up in dysfunctional families, which is pretty much everybody, it can be in thousands.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Compassion, not compassion. Right?
Oh, tick.
And if you can't feel that love flowing, at least savor your goodwill and your intention for yourself. Right? At least be willing to have that for yourself. So we really have two choices when it comes to that tick-tock place, right? We can have self-compassion or self-abandonment.
person's upside down. It's kind of hard to see.
No, it's Andrew digging himself into the snow, into the snow fort.
Person's upside down. Those are feet.
Yeah, those are feet sticking out of the top because he's underneath. I couldn't find it. That's the best picture I could find of myself. Digging ourselves in further, right? Letting ourselves beat ourselves up. Being critical with ourselves. How has being critical worked for you? Has it brought you more love, more joy, more healing? No, of course not, right? It's not going to. In fact, this week I actually witnessed a woman who made a mistake and she hit herself.
Oh.
How metaphorical is that for how we beat ourselves up, right? We do it internally, right? We do it internally. So with this experience that I had in the self-compassion, I suddenly feel that I am valuable. And I can't tell you what's happened over this last week as I integrated that piece. Because I realized that what I have to say is valuable. That what I have to give is valuable. That what I think is valuable. Right? And I don't know if you noticed, but one of the things I really struggle with is one of the things I really struggled with is saying, thank you, was putting myself out there, was promoting myself, was talking about my work, because I always had this little doubt that I kind of had this worry that I was kind of faking it. That I was people were thinking they were getting value, that what I had to say was important, but I kind of tricked them into it. And they, at some point I was going to be found out, right? And so it was very nerve-wracking for me to be promoting things. And so I always had this struggle within myself, this desire to bring these women's circles, for example. And then this other part of me that would go, but do you have anything really to give, right? So do you find that you have that within you? Do you recognize that struggle? There's part of you that wants to exercise, and there's part of you that wants to sit on the couch. There's part of you that wants to eat the chocolate cake, and there's a part of you that wants to be healthy because that's what you know your body's going to feel best at, right? So this self-compassion piece, this understanding, the way that we will move towards healing within ourselves is huge, right? Huge. And on Facebook, for this talk, which I never put my talks on Facebook, I don't know if you realize that. I never invite people or say anything about it because of this little piece, thinking, well, I don't want to really promote it too much in case this is the time when they figure it out, right? This is the fun time. And this time, I actually said, this is going to be a really great talk, you should come. Because I realized and recognized my own value. And the other big difference, which I expect to see moving forward, is that because I was truly in that space of not valuing myself or thinking that I was valuable, I was attracting people into my life who supported that. That's one of the patterns that I noticed as well. How is it that I keep bringing these people into my life who then don't realize? And it's really subtle, because I knew I was very talented. I knew I had a lot to offer. But this underlying belief of not being valuable just overshadowed all of that, right? And the words that you have are very particular for you. right? So we have to really listen deeply within for that. And Pat, I don't know if you remember, but on that very first board meeting when you came to Unity, September 23rd, 2012, it was a very big day for me, but not that that was the day when we had the new board in our renewal process. And you gave us that card exercise, and I chose the card. I am here, I've come here to be valuable.
Wow.
And I burst into tears. I was a complete puddle on the floor. I don't know if you remember that. And it literally took me an hour, if not hours, to even recompose myself. And I didn't know why. I didn't know why. Now I do. Now I look back and go, oh, now I get that. Now I understand what that is. So here's what I want to leave you with today. Right now, in this moment, I'm going to do what I can with what I have and what I know from where I am, and that is enough. Right? I invite you to have this written down as your mantra. Because the truth is, you are enough exactly as you are. And as we move forward and do this healing, bring those unconscious beliefs, heal those old wounds. Stop. Like this is something that can stop that critical voice, right? So that you don't have to go so far into talk, and if you do, you don't have to have it drag you down. So let's take this into meditation. We're going to sing the song. Anthony's going to lead us, and then we'll do a guided meditation.
There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is
I invite you to take a deep breath in and let it go. Take another deep breath in, and as you let it go, letting go of any thoughts that are keeping you from being present right here and right now. Taking another deep breath in. I invite you to take your hand to your heart. To connect with that place of love within. I invite you now to imagine that you are breathing through your heart chamber. The air flowing in and out. And I want you to feel how you are not just connected to the energy of love, which is what the universe is made of, but you are love. you to feel and imagine that roots are growing from the soles of your feet deep into Mother Earth. Deep, deep, deep down they descend, anchoring you, centering you. And feel the love that comes up those roots from Mother Earth herself. The love, the support. Feel it rising up through your feet, through your legs, through your body, up into your heart. And from there, I invite you to experience a really deep appreciation for you. For all of who you are. For all of what you bring. And appreciating that maybe those self-critical parts are serving you too. Holding them in appreciation and love. And as you bring love to yourself, love to these parts of you, known and unknown, the parts that you were critical of, the parts that you don't want to accept. Just open a space in your heart. Feeling that deep love and appreciation. Knowing that you can return to this place. I invite you now to bring your awareness back into the room, to feel your feet on the floor.
There is only love. There is only love. Love that gives, love that
How about that? Holy. Perfect words as usual from Anthony, wasn't it? Wasn't that a beautiful song? And it is the love that's healing us all. And Susan, so valuable, right? So valuable. Let's go with valuable. So valuable. Oh, so many words to say. But Susan has a great gift, as you can see, of taking things that are emotional and kind of abstract and be able to explain them in a way that you can relate to them and use them in your life. Like, it's really practical, and so I really appreciate your practical approach to something that is so heartfelt, and also your genuineness and willingness to share so deeply with us this morning. It really is